here we are. And okay, AI can plan an event, but we need you to design an experience. So I'm sure everyone who's clicked through on this is like, okay, we're talking about events, and you've had this experience where you go to a workshop, a conference, a retreat, a meeting, and there are things happening. There's the agenda getting rammed into your face, and it's in a white linoleum floor, fluorescent lighting, no windows, drab environment. The event's happening to you
Mhm.
versus you've had an experience that came over you, transformed your state, your life, from the food, the colors, the branding, the warmth, the people, the place, the location, the ambiance, that it became unforgettable. We want to talk about how to have the difference between just an event and having an experience. Right, Nettie?
Yes, absolutely. And we unapologetically are fans of an experience because we know that if you're going to take the time to invite people to have to your event, if you're going to take the time to plan it, if you're going to invest the money in it, if you're going to do the follow up from it, and you fall short on designing this as an experience that leaves people wanting more, that leaves people feeling amazing, that transforms people, then you're wasting your time and money and energy. So we don't want that for you. And we want your people to interact with you and this event in a way that is just good for everyone. And I'm going to tell you, if you are aiming to design an experience, your own experience in that event is going to be better because you will be included in the equation as opposed to, oh, what's the agenda so I can make sure that we cram all this stuff in? How do we check the boxes? They're expecting this. Our budget only covers this awful, awful windowless, natureless room, right? Like, please stop. I'm telling you, you are going to have a better time if your focus is on planning an experience, and that experience really elevates the best for your person attending and for you.
Mm-hmm. 100%. This is the Wake Up Women Leaders podcast, episode 15, and we're going to get into it because women leaders do business differently. And that's what we're here to inspire, encourage, and teach you how to do. If that speaks to you, make sure you hit like, share, subscribe so that you get the notifications first every time we're going live. By the way, Nettie, you just dropped all these wonderful golden nuggets, and I'm curious, oh nugget golden
Dropper.
dropper, who are you? Where
Oh,
did you come from? Whoa.
full disclosure, everybody listening, today might be a little more fun than usual. I hope you love coming to listen to us uh, talk, converse, share ideas, and maybe help you think a little bit differently from a different perspective. Both of us are coming here today just a little more energized than normal, and we'll see what this episode sounds like afterwards. I'm Nettie Owens. I am the founder of the Sapari Group. I do executive coaching for women in leadership roles, whether that's as an entrepreneur or in an executive position. And I do this through one on one coaching as well as the process that I have designed and delivered for decades now to help you plan and execute on your biggest goals without burning out. So, how about you, Victoria? What are you bringing to us today?
Oh my. Ah. I'm bringing my 16 years experience of being the world's first business Reiki master, which means I'm a Reiki master and a business coach. So it's been my joy for this time to get to continue with my clients and community. And perhaps those of you watching, if you so choose to hop in grounding and clearing your energy in your mind, body, and business. I believe that everything is energy, and even money is energy. And when you have good energy, you make good money. I believe that when more good people like you make good money, more good happens in the world. And so I love being a force behind helping you do that. You can find me at strategicmeditation.com.
Awesome. Well, let's come back to an event versus an experience. And even just this podcast is an example of design forward uh, ex- execution, I think is what I'm going for here, right? We prepare ahead of time, even just for these 30 minutes that we're together, so that our energy and our joy in coming to this conversation is at the best possible level that it can be. It doesn't even matter what's happening before we get together to talk. We come in and we have a process, a literal process to make sure that when we show up and we hit live, we are ready to go, to be joyful, to be elevated and aligned with how we want to show up for you. And that is what design forward thinking can create in not just a 30-minute podcast, but in every meeting, in every retreat, in every conference. And you don't have to be an entrepreneur. You don't have to be selling seats to be thinking about the design of the experience.
Mm-hmm. 100%. Maya Angelou said that people don't remember what you said. They don't remember what you did. They remember how you made them feel. And so this is important because, especially when we're looking at events, for those of us who are trying to gather people together and make sure they get the event promise, right?
Mm,
All of the things that were advertised, that we use the budget allotted, that we get all of the sponsors in there and make sure everyone, like, we end up, as we're checking all the boxes, as Nettie was saying before, we end up, as we check all the boxes, making people feel like we're shoving 100 pounds of stuff into a 50-pound bag, if you know
mm,
what I mean.
yeah.
And that means not even overflowing, overwhelming.
Mm,
So I hear a lot in the community of entrepreneurs, internet entrepreneurs, over deliver doesn't mean overwhelm your people. It means add some lovely sprinkles on top that will surprise people, as that they weren't expecting to get. Oh, maybe a bonus Q&A session, or oh, there's fresh flowers on the table, or oh, there's like a salt lamp in the middle of the state of the like auditorium at AT&T. So this is an example. So when I would year after year go to the world headquarters of AT&T to deliver in Bedminster, New Jersey, to deliver a talk on meditation, the 10-minute solution to workplace stress, that's where I learned to convert a nasty corporate room with no windows and the that like sad carpet and the sad carpeted walls, um and like just from like a drab room into like this wonderful temple of healing. And people saw the advertisement of like, oh, there's going to be a lunch and learn about meditation. Got it. Let me go. Let me get some free potato chips and take a nap in the room while my meeting on my phone is on mute. Great, I'll do that for lunch. When they arrived, the lights were turned down low. There was calm spa music playing. The background of my PowerPoint presentation is of a significantly darker shade, so you can look at it without it frying your eyeballs. And at the front nearby me was one salt lamp plugged in to the wall and turned on while the rest of the lights were turned off. People thought that simple design, turning down the lights, soothing sounds, soothing color, and one salt lamp, they thought it was the most incredible, relaxing, stupendous, surprising. Oh my gosh, I wasn't expecting that, right? Be kind to yourself. It is the feel when you start to care about how your people feel as they move through the content of your event. That is how you craft an experience. And dare I say, this is especially important for women. This is a feminine thing. We nest like the birds and the bees. Hello. We nest when we're getting ready to be fertile. And so create the nest around you that supports people feeling relaxed, open, and ready to engage with you, your content, themselves, and each other.
Something that you taught me in relation to sales, but it is an effective strategy anywhere, and you're starting to kind of go in that direction with nesting, so that you're creating an environment that's supportive for others. Listeners, if you create an environment that's supportive for you, it will likely be supportive for others. And this is not thinking about what do they expect, what do they want. We're saying if you create an environment that will help you deliver at your highest level. So that means, like Victoria said, if you need the lights dimmed, if you need the music playing, if you need a salt lamp, if you, for me, what this looked like is I presented many workshops over the years. I think we were at 14 workshops over the years in a garden. In a garden. That was what I needed in order to have a great experience. And so this meant I was standing on bricks. There were windows all around into the outside. People could move freely. I could move freely between the inside space and the outside space. We could hear natural sounds. So create the space that works well for you. And it's not necessarily the most expensive space. And we're going to talk about other elements for design as well. But I think there is a misconception that in order to do this, it has to be, you have to book the spa, you have to book the five-star hotel. But some of the best spaces that I've come across have been highly unexpected. We did delivery for this conference at a museum, and it had a bank of windows that opened out onto the Chesapeake Bay. We've done this event at an arboretum, at an Audubon park. And in between sessions, people could walk the trails. So, and also these were accessible spaces, just to make sure that that everyone feels included and is able to participate. So that is an important element. Some of the best places in the world aren't accessible. So keep that in mind, that as you look for places, consider more public or more nonprofit kind of spaces where they're already thinking about inclusivity and you can benefit from having a space that's accessible. So it's not just planning the agenda and designing the agenda. We're talking here about designing the space and the sensory elements, but we want you to be thinking about, and we've talked about this in past episodes, we want you to be thinking about what, how can you elevate connection between you and your people, between the people who are attending, even between you, the people in the space? How can you elevate connection? How can you ensure that transformation takes place, that they come and they experience something and their life is made better, it's transformed because of participating in your event. And lastly, how can you ensure that they know what the next step is? All of these things are about designing your event as opposed to writing an agenda that checks boxes. Oh, we had an opening. Whoop, okay, we talked about some stuff and they left. That is not what we want. We want to know from the onset that they're going to walk away at a minimum with a certain transformation, and at a maximum, they've connected, they've felt amazing, and they leave saying, I want to do that every day of the year. I want to come back every year. We want them to say that when they walk out the door.
Mm-hmm. But Nettie, what in the world is a transformation? How exactly do you operationalize creating transformation? You
Mm,
know, because when that's like, though I'm putting my little devil horns on
yeah,
to be advocate for the skeptics.
yes. I love the skeptics because when we plan for the skeptics, we plan a complete event. It is fabulous. Bring
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So transformation is similar in has in the past hit me like an empty word, similarly
Mhm.
to value. Oh,
Right.
I've got to deliver value. I want the event to be valuable. What is value?
Mhm.
What is transformation? How do you operationalize that so that you know, oh, I know what I've designed is extremely valuable and always generates transformation. I'm curious.
So I like to put my scientist hat on, and I very much appreciate the scientific process. So, the scientific process, to bring you back to middle school when you probably learned about this, it starts with an idea, a hypothesis, something that you believe to be true. And then you go out doing research, doing experiments to try and prove your hypothesis. Along the way, you're going to be taking notes about what you do to prove your hypothesis. And at the end of this work, you're either going to um, prove the hypothesis or disprove the hypothesis. And your process along the way is going to show you, what this end result is and how it came to be. So, when we're talking about transformation, it's not so different than that. You have a hypothesis about what's possible for your attendees. And if you've done an event like this before, then you've probably designed a way to bring them from where they are now to the outcome that you desire. And so you are going to design a process that steps them through from A to B. So transformation is to change, right? It's to take a person who is operating, thinking, moving about the world in one way and change how they operate, move, think, what perspectives they have, et cetera, to another way. It could be very small. It could be a skill delivery. It could be a perspective change, but we're looking for some amount of change. So we're coming back to our scientific process. Okay, so we have a hypothesis. We've done the work to figure out how to create an outcome. We see that our hypothesis is approved, or if it didn't work, then we want to make some changes and or change the experiment for a different outcome. But what makes this truly scientific is that it's repeatable. So once you have a hypothesis that you can prove creates a certain result, the process ensures that every time you deliver this these steps in this way, you will get the same outcome. So transformation, again, we're like tying all these pieces together, helping people make a change. We want to have a designed process that is repeatable. So that kind of touched on both. What is this transformation? It's really just a change. People are coming to you for some change from the state that they're currently in. And you design a process to deliver that change. And somebody should be able to look at your process and follow the steps and get the same outcome. That's
Hmm.
really important, especially when you're thinking about, sharing something that people are going to pay for, people are going to spend their time with. We want to put our scientist hat on in this design work.
Oh yeah, 100%. When you find the recipe, like your scientific method, your scientific process, you want to use the recipe as it works. If you're trying to bake a vanilla cake, you are not going to grab broccoli. You're going to stick to the ingredients that worked the first time. And this is where over designing comes in, because we as the leaders, we as the owners, the entrepreneurs, we are also creative in nature, and so we will get bored with our own success of like, that was a great event, so I'm going to do a whole new thing next time. Whereas your people came in, they paid for that. They were like, that was great. Don't be afraid to be scientific and rinse and repeat. When you're creating your own sense of transformation, I love that you also mentioned the hypothesis. Um, so that's related to the gap analysis. Where is someone coming from, and where do you want them to go to? From two. That's a gap analysis, basic gap analysis. The book Play Bigger calls it even a Froto, like it makes me think of Frodo Baggins. But from two, get really clear on, okay, what do I want to take people from, and where do I want them to go to, and how they will perceive that value of that from two transformation. And Nettie is the best at this, is you ask them, where do you want to go from, and where do you want to go to? And how about you write that down? Here's where I'm coming from. I'll give you 5 minutes. Do, write it down. Turn to your neighbor and share. Do. Okay. And then at the end of the day, all right, this is where you were coming from. Now, where have you gone? Okay. Where do you now want to go? It, for people in attendance, allowing them to self assess, self reflect, self report is extremely valuable. Why? Because this comes down to perceived value. You could be the greatest speaker of all time, but if you don't get that person to talk to themselves as you're speaking, they're not going to have a valuable experience. What matters most is how they feel. Get people to engage with themselves as well as each other, whether you're in person or online, right? We're talking a lot about in person events, but you may be delivering a digital event. There's still ways for you to bring a sense of transformation, but also convey that value of connection, as in reflection to self and connection to others, right? Communicating with others, whether you're in person or online.
Yeah, 100%. Everything that we're talking about here can be translated to be in any space. And I want to bring us back to kind of where we started. We talked at the very beginning about how AI can design an event, but we really need you to design the experience or create an event and design the experience. And the reason why we're talking about this now is I've seen, I think Victoria's experienced as well, meetings where AI wrote the agenda, events, conferences where AI designed the handouts or designed the event or designed the programming. Look, I use AI a lot. I love the resource that it is and the tool that it is. But ladies, listen, you cannot rely on AI to design your event. This is where you get to be creative, where you get to put on your play hat, where you can to tap into yourself and think about what feels wonderful to you. AI cannot tell you that. What can tell you that is a wonderful method called strategic meditation that Victoria can teach you. And I want to guide you today to check out what she has available. She has some very easily accessible resources if you go to her website and check her out. So, Victoria, where exactly do they go to access those, like to learn how to do that strategic meditation?
Yeah, for sure. Strategicmeditation.com. Meditation is not spelled with a C, for those of you that are wondering. And right there, you can sample actual guided strategic meditations before you even opt in. And it is also a free trial for you to go in and learn that right there. And thank you
You're welcome.
for that. And I was actually just thinking to say, when you mentioned that, okay, this is an opportunity for you to get creative about planning, I was like, actually, you're listening to the best in the industry at strategic event planning. And that's Nettie Owens over at Sapari Group. So here's the thing. Nettie and me goes together like peas and carrots. There are those of us who are putting on events and are just trying to put ourselves out there, slapping it in Claude and Chat GPT or whatever AI you've got going to try and do your best. But you're noticing that it's lacking the soul, the structure, the depth that you really know you're capable of. It doesn't feel expensive.
Mhm.
It doesn't feel expansive. It's because you're relying on AI. But AI is teaching you that, you don't have to go it alone. You can ask questions. So rather than typing another prompt to AI, I would invite you to type in the comments below, connect, and we will be your actual intelligence supporting you on bringing your brilliance out. Go ahead, comment, connect. We'll reach out to you on LinkedIn because we want to protect you from over designing as well as feeling overwhelmed with all of one thing about AI, it's an information non-stop fire hose. It is a recipe for spinning your wheels. Nettie's about getting you that traction. I'm about getting you that vision and energy so that when you hit the ground running, you're getting all the way to the end of what you want, the goals you want to hit.
Yeah, I want to point out that for those of you who are using AI, you know this to be true. There is no end to your AI conversation. There is no end. This actually, I mean, it can be a benefit in that that conversation is always open and ready and it can keep going uh, ad infinitum. However, you do need to close loops. You need closure. And what we're talking about with actual intelligence as opposed to artificial intelligence is that you know when it makes sense. You've gotten what you need. It's time to stop. If you learn the meditation strategy that we're talking about with strategic meditation, you will be doing that meditation for a definite and finite amount of time and in order to receive an answer. This may be something that you haven't really thought about. You've noticed that that prompt goes on and on and on, and you have to walk away. There's actually anxiety that's created by there not being closure and an endpoint to what you're doing. Speaking of closure and an endpoint, it's time for ours. I want to kind of wrap us up with some of the things that you can do just to sum up. We've covered a lot of ground. We've brought in AI. We weren't even expecting to, but we realized what a big influence AI is in events. And this is not to say don't use AI. We just want you, if you are designing an experience and that is a sensory experience that creates transformation and connects people, leading them to the next step, then we want you to use your intelligence in order to make that for the people that you care about and desire to work with. Um, I think I've named all of it. We want you to tap into your own knowledge about what works best for you and what feels amazing. We want you to think about the connections of on all layers that you want the people to have, that you want to have, that you want them to experience in the space, between each other, etc. We want you to think about the transformation and the process to get them from to in the time that they're with you. And we want you to decide what the next step is so that you can lead people through that process and help them move forward on the other side of it. Definitely reach out. We are so excited to talk to you about what challenges you're facing, even what you're creating and what you're excited about. You don't have to go this alone. And we would love to be partners with you in the work that you're doing. Next time, we're going to be talking about what happens when the budget blows up. And we're not talking about this in relation to events, although it can happen there, but in the work that you're doing, if it gets ahead of you and suddenly you find yourself spending way more than you thought and having more bills come in and maybe less money coming in, what do you do? So we're going to be talking about money. We're going to be talking about budgeting, and we would love for you to come back for that conversation next Wednesday, 3:30.
We'll see you then. Make sure, remember, if you've made it to the end of this episode, that means you got value from it. Go ahead and pass it forward. Hit that share button so that more women leaders wake up. We'll see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.